So anyway, on the 14th of August, alright guys, we have made it. We have time travel to somewhere else. I don't really know where we are. Seems to be on the Armu Daria River or beach. But we have made it, and I guess that is a Russian. So that means we're in the 1979 Afghan Soviet invasion war. But why don't they have AKs? That is weird. Let me go ask. Excuse me, comrade, why don't you have AKs? What is AK? We have Trusty Mosin Nagant rifle, a new experimental PPD 40. No wait, this is 1929. I mean, the new Dektarev machine gun. Alright, so it appears that we have traveled back, not to 1979, but 1929. And I guess this is the Soviet invasion with the Bashmashi movement of Afghanistan. Interesting facts, this is where the name Mujahideen first came from. So the Soviets did fight the Mujahideen. There was also a revolution, but they did not support it because it was a conservative revolution. So, okay, that's a bit odd. And of course, before we end this weird time traveling gimmick, yes, they did intervene in an Afghan civil war. So that means we're in between now and forever. So anyway, without further ado, since I'm at the beach, let's go into the Afghan civil war. Again, it is seemed that we have come here from Africa. Actually, I'm not from Africa, but the Basmashi War, or the Soviet intervention into Afghanistan of 1929. So since 1919, close diplomatic relations were established between the RSFSR, which was going to refer to the USSR, but it's still in the Russian Civil War and stuff, right? And the Kingdom of Afghanistan, contrary to British interests. So in April 1923, a new constitution was adopted in Afghanistan. Among the reforms carried out by Amullah Khan were the prohibition of polygamy and marriages with minors, the abolition of the obligatory wearing of the veil of women, which led to the creation of a powerful opposition, which was primarily the Muslim clergy. So in March 1924, a major uprising broke out in Harazajat. So in September 1924, at the invitation of the Amullah Khan, a mission from 11 Soviet flight instructors arrived in Kabul. It was planned to create their own air force in Afghanistan. The United Kingdom, which had already received and provided Amullah with the de Havilland airplanes, actually protested, but Amullah Khan ignored it. So on the 6th of October, Soviet pilots and British aircraft made combat sorties in Konaskai in the rebel area. And on the 14th of October, they bombed rebel bases in Kos and Naradal region. So on the 15th of September 1927, the Politburo of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union decided to transfer the southern neighbor 1-2 R2 planes and the 2 anti-aircraft batteries of 8 guns and funds for the flight school. So at the same time, a wave of immigrants from Central Asia and the Central Asian republics who fled from Soviet power swept across into northern Afghanistan, mostly Tajiks, Uzbeks, and Turkmen. So in this and in the midst of all of this, with the financial and the material armed support from the United Kingdom, a movement was strengthened that was called the Bashmashim, or the Bashmaism, in the Soviet Union. And the members called themselves the Mujahideen. The most influential leader of this was Ibrahim Bek Masood. I'm just kidding, Ibrahim Bek. The Soviet government exerted strong pressure on the Afghan government to, get rid of the Mujahideen, or we will do it for you. This sounds oddly familiar, but this is the first time we're doing it though. So Amullah Khan shortly limited access to the British intelligence agency. So in November 1928, a new uprising broke out in eastern Afghanistan. It was led by Khabadullah al-Kalakinie, or Bachaye Shapoy. So many researchers believe that he was actually supervised by T.E. Lawrence himself, or Lawrence of Arabia. So Tajik historian Kolmoluddin Abravilev did not really confirmed this idea, but said it could have been a possibility. Nomadic people, Middle Eastern setting, like, secret intelligence with the British rebels, like, it could have been, could have not, maybe, who knows? So Habibullah Din was actually supported by religious leaders in that sector of the world. He accused Amullah Khan of violating Sharia, declaring the abolition of all the bourgeoisie reforms and performing the abolition of land tax, conscription, and announcing the cancellation of debts, which actually attracted a huge crowd. Justice was to be administered by the Sharia court. Schools were closed and education was transferred over to the control of the mullahs with religious teaching. So in addition, Kalabadulada, and keep in mind, this is not like the corrupted Taliban or Saudi version of Sharia. This is like Sharia. This is not like extremist Sharia. This is like martial law Sharia. This is like old-timey Sharia. So just don't be frightened by Sharia right now, but it's still a couple of bad stuff. But it is not the same Sharia that we're accustomed to here in the West. Anyway, so in addition, Kalabibullah actually established close connections with the leaders of the Bashmashi movement, Ibrahim Bek, and the former emir of Bukhara, Mohammed Al-Mil Khan. So on the 11th of December 1928, Habibullah was actually proclaimed the Pashadisha of Afghanistan. And a Pashadisha is actually basically a king or the master of the realm, that kind of thing, right? Because he was kind of like an interim kind of, he's like the supreme ruler. He's like an absolute monarch, right? And on the 13th of January, he was declared Emir Habibullah II. So on the 14th of January 1929, Amullah Khan abdicated and fled to Kandahar. So on the 17th of December, Habibullah actually occupied Kabul. Ethnic and religious slaughter began in the city. Pashtuns professing Sunni Islam massacred the Shia Hazara. The pogroms of schools, factories, and radio stations began. So state control over the provinces of Afghanistan was lost. Chaos reigned in the country for about a couple of months, and Ibrahim Bek recalled that the riots had begun. One village went to another, settling all accounts and scores. Afghan historian Mir Gulhal Muhammad Gulbar, a contemporary of those events, wrote that the reign of Habibullah was actually a tragedy for the country. Oh boy, it was. Now, let's see. Oh man, our figurehead in Afghanistan is gone. What do we do? I believe we invade Afghanistan again. What do you mean again? This is first time. Well, apparently we did it in imperial times, and we'll do it again in the 70s. When we have flying cars? Perhaps, comrade, but that's not good that far. Anyway, we must invade Afghanistan. Again. Okay. So, selection for the detachments was actually conducted by the Deputy Commander Germanvik. Yep, Germanvik. So the Afghan detachment was replenished by the Red Army from the 81st Cavalry and the 1st Mountain Rifle Regiment, as well as the 7th Cavalry, the Artillery Division of the Red Army, and 4 mountain guns, 12 Elise, and 12 light machine guns. The detachment was a powerful mobile radio station, which was perfectly armed and equipped and had a full sufficient supply of provisions. All of the Red Army men were dressed in Afghan uniforms, and a lot were from Central Asia. The commanders received Asian names, or Central Asian names, which were to be called in the presence of the Afghans. The commander of the detachment was entrusted to, which was V.M. Primakov, under the pseudonym of the Turkish officer Raga Big Bey. The call signs were Vitmar. So the chief of staff was appointed personally by the officer of the Afghan army, which was Herda. So the chief of staff was appointed personnel officer Afghan Hadar. So formally the detachment was subordinate to the Afghan general G. Nabi Khan, and on the 10th of April a detachment of about 2,000 soldiers were already ready for action. So in the early morning of the 15th of April 1929, 6 aircraft equipped with machine guns crossed the Soviet-Afghan border in the Uzbek city of Termez. and actually appeared over the Afghan border of Patargasar. So the garrison employees, not taking proper precautions, went out to look at the aircraft. It is big, fly metal the birds. I'm just kidding. The Afghans know what a plane is. Airplanes, having made 2 rounds of the deployed front, sank and fired machine guns at the Afghan border guards. Several bombs were dropped over and actually destroyed the barracks of the Afghan army. So, of the 50 Afghans who made up the garrison, only 2 survived to tell the tale. The entire operation actually lasted 10 minutes. Meanwhile, a detachment led by Vataly Primakov crossed the Amu Darya River and landed on the Afghan coast via motorboats, cabins, and even barges. Yes, in a landlocked country like Afghanistan, there must still be rivers. You gotta drink water out there. The 2 surviving Afghan border guards made their way to the neighboring city or province of Sher Gut border post, so 20 miles or 32 kilometers away for the Europeans, and reported what they had seen and what had happened. A garrison of 100 sabres immediately went to the Pasa Gasar, but only after 5 miles of the road actually collided with the enemy and were destroyed by machine gun fire. At the same time, Amullah Khan, with his 14,000 Hazaras, advanced from Kandahar to Kabul. The capture of Khalif, Kanabad, and Mazar al-Sharif. So on the 16th of April, Primikov's detachment approached the city of Khalif. The garrison was given an ultimatum with the proposal to lay down their arms and go home. The Afghans rejected the demands on the Soviet side, but after several exchanges of gunfire and machine gun fire, they actually fled. They fled. Now, so on the 17th of April, the city of Kanabad was actually taken. The defenders, which took refuge in the city of Mazar al-Sharif, or the Mazar-e-Sharif. So on the night of the 18th of April, the governor of Mazar al-Sharif, Mazar Kizama, summoned the Soviet General Council and the Council General, with whom he had friendly relationships with. So on the night of the 18th of April, the governor of Mazi al-Sharif, Mazar Kaza, or Kazimir, actually summoned the Soviet Council General, with whom he had friendly relationships with, and demanded clarification on what was happening and why the Soviets were invaded. The council was put into a difficult position, since he himself was not informed about the operation of the Red Army in Afghanistan territory. You see, comrade, we are doing it for something, I guess. So on the morning of the 22nd of April, Primikov's detachment began shelling Mazar al-Sharif. Machine guns hit the defenders of the wall, and 2 hours after the start of the battle, the gunners brought the guns to the entrance to the citadel and, having launched a volley, broke the gate. The detachment burst into the city. Part of the remaining garrison fled to Tashgodagan, while the others took refuge in the nearby fortress of Dihadadi. Yes, Dihadadi. Dadi. So, a huge numbers of corpses mutilated by artillery fire laid at the gate. On the same day, a telegram was sent to Tashkent in the Uzbek USSR, not the USSR, but Uzbek Soviet Socialist Republic. And from there, a detachment was actually sent to Moscow. Mazar is busy with Weizmann's detachment. I crack myself up. According to the Soviet Council General in Mazar al-Sharif, the infantry rushing into the city forgot they had to play the role of the Afghan and went on the attack with the traditional Russian Hurrah! Ibrakov, G.S. Cheka, Chapter XXV, Stalin's Adventures of War, 1931. So according to another eyewitness, the illegal representative of the intelligence agency in Mazar al-Sharif, Matovi, the operation was extremely rude. Despite the fact that the detachment was ordered not to speak Russian after the occupation of Mazar al-Sharif, Russian warfare was held all over the place, on airplanes in the most unceremonious way, without even painting the stars on the wings, flew daily on the enemy's area and threw bombs. It is possible that some of the foreigners managed to photograph these paintings. Then it would be difficult for us to discourage or dissuade. Right, dissuade. My English is very good. Very good. So during the week of the campaign, 500 Hazaras joined the detachment, of which they formed a separate battalion, or the Hazara Battalion. So at the Council of the Heads of Administrators, military leaders and Islamic scholars who had decided to declare a jihad against the invasion of the atheist infidels on their land to gather a militia to meet the enemy. On the 24th of April, the garrison of the Dahadidi, or Dahadadi, and the Dahadahi fortress and the tribal militias tried to drive Premakov's detachment from Mazar el-Sharif. The fight lasted all day. Numerous but poorly armed Afghans with prayers and religious chants went on the attack in a take formation in an open area under gun and under machine gun fire. Allahu Akbar! So despite the enormous losses, one wave after another and one wave after attacker was replaced by another. By the end of the day, the attacks had stopped, but the position of the besieged was critical. The city was surrounded by a dense ring of Afghan tribal people. A radio transmission was sent to Tashkent asking for help. Hello, comrade, we need help, we need help. Давай, давай. Коремашкини и Евген. So on the 25th of April, a machine gun squadron was urgently deployed through the Alamu Darya River to Afghanistan. But on the way to Mazar el-Sharif, they were met with the superior forces of the Afghan militia and was forced to retreat. But on the way to Mazar el-Sharif, he was met by superior forces of the Afghan militiamen and women and was forced to return to the Anmar Daru River. So on the 26th of April, 10 machine guns and 200 artillery shells were delivered to Mazar el-Sharif by airplane. Hey, comrade, watch out! Artillery! Where? On top, look up. Shit! Where? Artillery shells? Oh, shells, not artillery pieces. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I mean, like, you could drop mortars too, right? Remember, these are not monoplanes yet. Alright, I gotta look up when monoplanes were made, but this is like 1930, so probably like 1932. Anyway, so unable to take the city by force, the Afghans, in order to force Primakov's detachment to surrender, blocked all the irrigation ditches leading to the city at night and began the siege. The situation in the city was getting worse. A less disciplined Afghan battalion began to murmur. Primakov delivered a report to Tashkent. Testing. Torvai, Tashkent, Bodakin. The final solution of the problem lies in the mastery of the Dahadadi and the Balak. There is no manpower for this. It needs a technique. The issue would be resolved if I receive 200 gas grenades, mustard gas, 200 chlorine grenades, a little to the guns, and even, In addition, it is necessary to make a detachment more maneuverable. It gives a squadron of thugs. I have been denied a squadron, aviation, gas grenades, and pierogies. Failure violates the basic conditions. Take Mazara, then legally help. If you cannot expect that the situation will change and we will get help, I will defend the city. If help cannot be counted on, then I will pay in all and go to Dahadadi. If I take it, then we are the masters of the situation. No, then we will turn to the gang and look for the ways to go home. Hey, that sounds dramatic, very dramatic, comrade. Давай. I'm gonna set this to style right now. This is good. I should be actor, man. When I get back home, we're going to music school. Okay, Daravi. Okay, Prabakov. You go, buddy. You go, man. You go. So on the 5th of May 1929, to help with Primakov's detachment, a second Red Army detachment of 400 men and women were sent with 6 guns and 8 machine guns under the command of a certain Zamil Khan. There are no direct documents and documentary evidence of this, but many facts indicate that it was actually the commander of the 8th Cavalry Brigade of the Central Asian Military Detachment, Ivan Yefimovic Petrov. Yes, Yefi. Furries, become. I said Yefimovic. Yefimovic, not Yef. No Yef. No Yef. The detachment was also dressed in, well, Afghan uniform or tribal Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Stan country uniforms. Close enough. The Muslim battalion, basically. On the way, he was actually confronted by border outposts again, which in a matter of minutes was swept away by machine gun fire of the Red Army. Papers, please. I have papers right here to wait for it. Papers, please. So on the 6th of May, on the position of the Afghans near Mazar el-Sharif, the Central Asian Military District and Aviation launched their bombing and assault strikes on Mazar el-Sharif or the outskirts of it, so with the besieged Soviets inside. So within a 2-day period, the Zamal Khan squadron, after a quick throw, went to Mazar el-Sharif on the 7th of May, and together with Primakov's detachment, attacked the Afghans who had retreated to Dekhadadi. So on the 8th of May, after strikes and shelling, the garrison left the fortress, leaving about 50 guns, 20 machine guns, a large number of small arms, and even ammunition. So after a 2-day rest on the 10th of May, Primakov's combined detachment moved to several columns further south, towards Balak and Tashkoragan. So on the 12th of May, Primakov's detachment occupied Balak, and the next day, not meeting any resistance, entered the city of Tashkoragan. Right. The final frontier, the battle of the troops of Ibrahim Bek and Sayyid Hussein. So, from the east against Petrov's detachment, Ibrahim Bek advanced with 3,000 soldiers. Habibullah's National Guard emerged from Kabul with 1,500 soldiers, which in all totals to 4,500 people, under the command of the Minister of War, Sayyid Hussein. On the 11th of May, one of the columns of 350 people discovered a detachment of Ibrahim Bek. Immediately on the main line were 8 guns on the flanks, 200 meters away or 660 feet approximately from the road. 2 machine guns were installed, and they were heavy machine guns, so probably like a 1910 machine gun, not like a Dektarev or like PPD, sorry, but a very heavy machine gun, not like a light machine gun, right? And the sights were taken and calibrated in advance for the unassuming Afghans approaching the machine gun placements. When approaching the Ibrahim Bek's column of about 500 meters or approximately 1,600 feet, artillery opened fire. 3 guns hit the column on the head, 3 on the tail, and 2 in the center. Head is front, tail is back, center is middle or from a flank. Military terminology? Yeah. Hidden machine guns were launched from the flanks. There you go. Ibrahim's soldiers rushed to different directions, and many of them were killed in the Red Army and were killed by the Red Army during the chase. So Ibrahim's soldiers rushed to different directions and started to scatter. Many of them were killed by the Red Army during the chase. Half an hour after the start of the battle, a detachment of Sayyid Hussein discovered the patrol westward. A participant in these events and the platoon commander, A. Vashilev, left a detailed description of the battle picture. 2 terrible battles lasted. Bashmashi fairly resisted. The military ingenuity of Ivan Petrov helped to win the battle, i.e. Petrov? By his order, 3 prisoners captured from the Bek were sent to the enemy to inform the leader of the second gang about the results of the previous battle. 2,500 were killed, 176 were captured, and only 300 fighters managed to escape. The warning worked, though Bashmashi laid down their arms, of course. If both detachments appeared simultaneously from the opposite side, then having 10 to 12-fold superiority on manpower, they could have crushed the detachment. So now Sayyid Hussein, leaving his units, actually fled. According to the representatives of the reconnaissance unit in Mazar al-Sharif, Mataviv, when the detachment returned to the same road, the decomposed corpses still laid unclean from the road. Now, back home. So the flight from Afghanistan of Amullah Khan put Cherreponov's detachment in a difficult position. In the absence of any legal basis for the inside the country, the state of the aircraft on its territory were regarded as an aggression by the USSR and international war law and Geneva Convention, stuff like that. In addition, in European countries as well as Turkey and Iran, Turkey's kind of European, but it became known of the invasion of the Red Army in Afghanistan. So on the 29th of May, Cherreponov received a telegram from the Central Asian Military District headquarters on his return to his homeland. GB Nabi Khan moved to Tamez, Uzbekistan, USSR. It's basically the end. I can mess up if I want. So the consequences of this, of course, the Soviets would try again to uphold their role in Afghanistan. Afghanistan had actually been long a tug of war between the powers it was meant to separate, which were the Russians and the British during the Great Game. Now, the operation of the Red Army in Afghanistan did not change the situation in the country. More than 300 participants in the campaign were actually awarded the Order of the Red Banner. And the rest have valuable gifts and promotions, nice little house, whatever you please. In the documents of the military units, this operation is actually listed as the elimination of barbarity in South Turkestan. And its description in historical works are pretty much prohibited until the 90s, because this is how we know about most of the Cold War Soviet stuff, and with the classified CIA documents as well, stuff like that. So we got a clear picture of all that stuff. So anyway, the consequences is that, well, the Soviets had the first go around, the Imperial Russians had a good one around. So third time in 1970 is charm, my friend. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. Just a nice little one to do for you. Beaches tomorrow, so I don't know if my willpower, I don't know if I'll be that, uppity up, because it is a lot of swimming and carrying a lot of heavy stuff back home. So this is for tomorrow, but should I make one for today? Probably so. So you might not see this, but Meta, I hope you enjoyed the other video, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. This video was actually not bad, a couple of here and there, but not bad. The beginning was kind of warmy-uppy. I was trying to, the beginning was kind of warmy-uppy, but I do believe that I actually made it. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time. So this is Wednesday's video on a Tuesday. Yeah, I'm just going it for one time. Now 5 o'clock, so I'm gonna take a 10-minute, 15-minute break, watch the video, and do another quickie, which should be about 10 minutes, and go for a walk and edit the 10-minute one, and probably edit some of this at the beach. So I'ma see ya, learn something. Until next time. Dash Vidania. Dash Vidania, ladies, gentlemen, NB. Later, I'll see you later. I guess I could do like an opening for this, because it is kind of time travel. It's not contemporary, so we do get one. Yeah, my Soviet ones are pretty funny. So next time.
скажите всем, что высшего качества пиявки покупайте и ставьте только пыль Артемьева. Собака сбежала. Сука. Английский сеттер. Белая, с кофейными пятнами. От покупки и продажи предостерегаю. Доставившего вас накрушу. Гражданин Заика Стефанаумович. Происходящий из граждан хутора Бабич Донокруга. Переменяет фамилию Заика на Носенко. Лиц, имеющих препятствие к перемене фамилии, просят сообщить в Краснодар. Хожу. Крыс, мышей морить. You